What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, Under Center with Abelson, presented by the Real Spiel Podcast. The regular season of college football is officially in the books. Week 14, Rivalry weekend just wrapped up. A lot of games to talk. We got so much to talk about today. We got games to recap. We got coaches leaving, coaches getting hired, coaches getting fired. Hey, things happened fast after that last regular season game. Got a bunch of things to recap. Unfortunately, we did not get a preview video of Week 14 out this week, or last week, I should say. Did have a family emergency to tend to, so we were not able to really film last weekend. And then you had the holidays, Thanksgiving. Again, hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you ate a lot of turkey. But we are here to talk about the recap, the reactions to Week 14. A bunch of rivalry games. We did end the season on a great note with our picks. Had a great weekend with our picks. Made a little money. So it was nice to end the regular season on a positive note. So let's get into it. We got a lot to talk about, so I do not want to waste a lot of time. Before we get into it, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, we are here a couple times a week talking all things college football. Let's get into it. I mean, where should I even really start? Should we go in chronological order? We're just gonna spitball, man. We are just going to start talking, and wherever we get led, that's where we are gonna go. Let's start with the game of all games. Obviously, the game, Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State was looking to end the winning streak after losing 4 straight games to Michigan. Ohio State, man, they have been definitely the best team in all of college football this year. Absolutely dominant. I think they've given up less than, I think they're the only team in the country that has given up less than 100 points all year. Run game, passing game, Julian Saying, obviously a Heisman contender. And this was probably the first big test that Ohio State has had, I guess, since Texas. But even that Texas team they played at the first game of the season, the Texas team early in the season was not just really a great team. Arch Manning was struggling. The defense wasn't great. The offensive line wasn't great. So although Texas did still play them close, and that was a good challenge for them, they really have walked unscathed pretty much until now, and then they played Michigan. And my biggest question with Ohio State all year has been, how is Ohio State for real? Like, we know they're a great team. The defense is great. The offense is great. But are they great because they are that good of a team, or are they that good of a team because they aren't playing anybody? And although I thought don't get me wrong, Michigan is a Michigan is not a great team, I wouldn't say, but they are a good team. And I think this was probably, if I had to really check their schedule, like, this is probably the best team they've played since week 1. So this was going to be a good test. We were going to get a lot of answers on Ohio State and how good of a team they truly are. And I think our questions got answered, man. Our questions got answered. Michigan, they started the ball. I mean, on the very first play, Marshall, he ran for 35 yards. They marched down the field, a couple big runs, and they ended up scoring a field goal. And after that very first opening drive, I thought, uh-oh. Is this going to be a repeat of the last 4 years where Ohio State, Michigan just ran all over Ohio State? Ohio State got bullied. They got bashed in the trenches. They couldn't compete with Michigan in the trenches. So that kind of opened my eye a little bit, because on the very first play, the running back just breaks open for a 35-yard run. And then they get down the field in scoring position. They go on again to kick a field goal. And then on Ohio State's opening drive, Julian Saying, on the very second throw of the game, what happens? He throws an interception. And I'm like, oh, snap, it's going to happen again. Mind you, I picked Ohio State. This was one of the ones we got right. I picked Ohio State minus 10.5 to cover the spread. So I wasn't rooting for Ohio State. I'm an Ohio State hater, but I wasn't rooting for them. But I was like, uh-oh, is this going to happen again? Are we going to see a repeat of the last 4 years where Ohio State comes in, dominates, and then for whatever reason they play Michigan, things go shitty? And what happens in the Michigan second drive? They march down the field again, get a couple runs, a couple passes, and they score a field goal. Should have got a touchdown. They should have gotten a touchdown, but they were not able to get a touchdown. Had to settle with the field goal. But I will say, Julian saying after that opening drive, he did start settling down, started getting well balanced offense in. I think the MVP of this game was Bo Jackson, Ohio State's running back, because he was really what kind of helped settle Julian Sayin down after that opening pick. Because Bo Jackson, he was just getting 10 yards a clip. The amount of checkdowns that he had, where Julian Sayin got off his reads and checked it out, and he turned it from a 5-yard play to a 15-yard play. Bo Jackson, I think, what did he go for? He went for 22 carries. 117 rushing yards, but he also had 40? How many receiving yards did he have? He also had 49 receiving yards. So 117 rushing yards, 49 receiving yards, and again, he was really the reason. I think Julian Sayin really got settled in, and then obviously the plethora of receivers they have with Tate and and Smith. Eventually, you're going to get those guys open. And they were able to, right before the half, Jeremiah Smith did get a touchdown. I don't know. I think that was a touchdown. He caught the ball, ran 10 yards, and then bobbled it as he was going into the end zone. It looked like he had control. He bobbled it, but it looked like he bobbled it after it crossed the plane, is what it looked like to me. I also maybe didn't think there was enough to overturn it, so I didn't think that was a bad call. So I'm fine with how they kept it. But yeah, in the first half, it was 17-9 at halftime. Michigan was still in it. Ohio State really hadn't pulled away. But then obviously in the third quarter, that's kind of when things started to switch gears. Carnell Tate had a 50-yard bomb that he caught, and that kind of really opened up the game. That made it 24-7, and at that point, you had kind of felt that the way Michigan was playing, Ohio State's defense was just giving them so much trouble. The run game wasn't really there, and once they got that 24-6, was it 24-6 or 24? It was 24-9 at that point. Once they got the 24-9 lead, they completely kind of just changed their offense in that second half and just went to smash mouth bully ball. There was one point where they ran 19 plays, and of those 19 plays, 16 of them were runs in that second half. They went on a 19-play, 11-minute drive with 16 runs, spanning between the third and the fourth quarter, and they were giving Michigan a taste of their own medicine that they had been getting over the last 4 years. It was bully ball. It was Bo Jackson just being physical, getting tough yards. It was the backup running back coming in, just bouncing off of guys, getting hit and not going down. And that's what Ohio State, that's why they've pretty much lost the last 4 years. It's because they got sucked in for whatever reason to playing Michigan's type of game. And Michigan was better at that type of game than Ohio State was. Right, under Ryan Day, Ohio State they're not known for being this tough physical team. They're known for being an explosive offense, a good run game. And early in the game, what were they doing? They were passing the ball. Jeremiah Smith, long touchdown catch. Ennis, touchdown catch right before the half. Carnell Tate, early in the third quarter, 50-yard touchdown. Julian Sayin, he went, threw for over 200 yards. This guy's accurate as can be. 19 for 26, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. After that first pick, he, again, got settled in, and they were throwing the ball. And then once they got that lead, what'd they do? Then they started playing conservative. Then they started running the ball, running down your throat, being physical, being tough, and the defense being that great was able to maintain the rest of the way. So I'm really, again, I'm an Ohio State hater. I am an openly Ohio State hater. I will admit that. But again, I bet on them because I don't let my bias of teams impact my picks or anything. So I thought Ohio State was clearly the better team than Michigan. I think Michigan is still about a year away from really, really, truly competing with Bryce Underwood. He is a freshman at the end of the day. I don't even think he threw for over 100 yards today or in that game. Let me see. He threw for Bryson. Oh, wow, yeah, he threw for 63 yards. 63 yards. That's wild. And even Michigan, they got outran. They only ran for 100 yards. Ohio State, they ran for what? Ohio State ran for 186 yards. So shout out to Ohio State, man. You guys ended the streak. You guys played your game. You guys dominated this team. And you guys are undefeated going to the Big Ten Championship and got your win over Ohio State, man. Got your win. I think the biggest eye opener, or just the biggest thing that kind of lets you know how this game went, was third down. Ohio State went 11 for 16 on third down. Or I think 11 for 16 on third down. In Michigan, they went 1 for 11 on third down. I don't know if they got a third down conversion in the fourth quarter, but halfway through the fourth quarter, when I was keeping track, they were up to 1 for 11 on third down. And that's pretty much the difference. That's pretty much the difference in the game. When you cannot get off the field on defense and when your offense can't sustain drives, you're going to end up with a 27-9 final score. Shout out to Ohio State. This is one of the ones we got right. Ohio State minus 10.5. We hit on that one. Before we do get deeper, let's go over the rest of our picks on this one, and we'll kind of segue into some of the other games. We did have Georgia Tech to cover plus 14.5. We had Ole Miss to cover minus 7.5. Again, we had Ohio State minus 10.5. We had Oregon minus 6.5. We had Alabama minus 5.5. We were wrong about Tennessee. We did have Tennessee minus 2.5, and then we were wrong about Texas A&M. We did have Texas A&M at minus 2.5 as well. Speaking of Ole Miss and Texas A&M, let's talk about some of those Black Friday games that we did have on Friday. We'll touch on those first. I guess we can talk about the Ole Miss game. We will be talking more about Ole Miss later, but for now, we can start on that game. Going into this game, I know a lot of people were asking questions on if Ole Miss will be distracted, obviously with the Lane Kiffin, eventual news of him leaving. But at the time, it was just more of, will they be distracted? Because obviously he had to come up with a decision the next day. We do know what that decision is now, but in the first half, Mississippi State, they were playing extremely well, man. Extremely well. They benched, what's his name? I can't think of his name. The starting quarterback who's been there all year. They benched him for a freshman that played extremely well. In that first half, they were keeping things close. Ole Miss's defense, or Mississippi State's defense, was giving Ole Miss's offense and Chambliss some troubles, especially in that second quarter. There was a time there, because Chambliss started, 6 for 6, and then there was a time there where he missed 7 straight passes. And the passes that he was missing were, pretty bad. He was throwing over, he was throwing way to the left, way over the guy's head to the right, not on target. I think they went into the half 14-7 or 21-7. But in the second half, Ole Miss just kind of turned it on, and they kind of just became a little too much for Mississippi State. Chambliss, he started connecting on some of those passes. Because, there was a point where Ole Miss had 4 straight possessions with no points in that second quarter. But again, like I said, they figured it out. They turned it on late, ended up running away with that game. We're going to wait. We're going to wait to talk about this because I want to bring up kind of what this means for Ole Miss now, but we'll wait to talk about all the coaching stuff towards the end of this episode. But Ole Miss did get the win, 11-1 season, best season in Ole Miss history. Still should be going to the playoffs. They should definitely be going to the playoffs. I don't think this is going to be one of those Florida State situations where Florida State, lost Jordan Travis and then they got kicked out, because this is a little different, because the reason the committee left that Florida State team out of the playoffs was because they weren't not the same team without Jordan Travis. They had a data point. They had a game, that ACC championship game against Louisville after Jordan Travis got hurt. They had 2 games of samples. They had 2 games because he got hurt in that their second to last game where they played like Citadel or just some cupcake, and then the last game of the year they won, and then they played the ACC championship game against Louisville and won, and they were clearly not the same team. Clearly not. They struggled against that Louisville team in that ACC championship game, barely squeaking by. So they were not that same team. But this is a situation where Ole Miss, you don't have that data point. Like, you're not going to see Ole Miss play again unless it's either going to be a bowl game or obviously the playoffs. So you have no game to judge if they are still the same caliber team or not. So you have to judge them based off of the team they've been all year, and that team is an 11-1 team. Like, you can't punish them for their coach leaving and leave them out and saying they're not the same team when you have nothing to base that off of because you don't have a game or a sample size or a data point to base that off of. So Ole Miss, all you Ole Miss fans, I think you guys are going to be perfectly fine. You guys aren't going to miss the playoffs. 11-1. Your whole roster, I feel like, should still be there, so I think you guys are still going to be in a good position to be competitive. I'm not going to say you guys are going to go win the whole thing, but as long as the roster kind of maintains, I think Ole Miss will be okay in terms of still being able to compete, maybe win a game or two in the playoffs. But again, we'll talk more about that later. Georgia Tech. We were right about this one. We did have Georgia Tech minus 14.5. This is a rivalry game, man. This is a rivalry game. Being better than a team really does not matter in rivalry games, and I think this was kind of the epitome of it. Both of these teams, Georgia and Georgia Tech, were coming in on two different sides of the coin. Georgia, they have been playing the best they've been playing all season. They dominated Mississippi State. They dominated Texas. They finally shook off all those games where they start slow, they get in a hole, they have to claw and scratch their way back, and they've just been dominating. Gunnar Stockton's been playing well. The line has been playing a lot better. And Georgia Tech, the last three games have been the worst they've been playing. They lost to NC State. Then they barely beat Boston College on a game-winning field goal. Then they got absolutely handled by Pitt. So they were coming into this game wounded. They were coming into this game, licking their chops. And Georgia was coming into this game playing the best they've played all year. But I didn't think that mattered because what did we see last year? We saw a Georgia team who was potentially better last year, or at least pretty much the same. At this point last year, they were, I think, 10-2. They're 11-1 this year, so you can make a case. But at the worst, they were still on par. They won the freaking SEC last year, so it's not crazy to say they were a better team last year, or at least the same team. And Georgia Tech is better this year than they were last year. And what happened in that game? 8 overtimes. Georgia Tech, this SEC team, Georgia Tech, this ACC team, 8 overtimes. Georgia had to come back from a 17-point deficit. So I thought it was going to kind of be that same type of game this year. Obviously not the 8 overtimes, but Georgia Tech is a tough, physical team. And we tend to see Georgia kind of struggle with those tough, physical teams. Notre Dame in the playoffs last year kind of just handled them. Alabama, anytime they play, just almost kind of handles Georgia. And Georgia Tech, they might be reeling, but one thing they do have under Brent Key is they play a tough, physical brand. And this is a guy who went to Georgia Tech, so he understands the rivalry. He hates Georgia. He understands it. So I know they hadn't been playing good recently, but I thought he would get his team ready to play this game, and he kind of did. He did. The defense, the offense, that's what really kind of killed Georgia Tech. This is an offense who I think Georgia Tech leads the country in offense, bro. Like, if they don't lead, they're like top 5 in offense. I think Haynes King averages the most yards per game through the air in the country, something like that. If not, he's top 5. And the offense was really a no-show this game, man. It was a no-show, man. Only scored 9 points, but the defense was playing extremely well. Georgia, they did not play their best game. Clearly, they didn't have to, only being able to put up 16 points on this Georgia Tech team who's kind of been reeling. But again, it's a rivalry game, so none of that really matters. Georgia Tech with a chance to win it at the end of the game. They get a Hail Mary attempt. Obviously, it doesn't go through, and Georgia does win this. Again, that's why I picked Georgia Tech plus 15.5. I thought it was going to be a close game. I thought it was going to be a competitive game, and it was. It was. But Georgia, they are on to the SEC championship game, which I'm not saying Kirby's not ever ducking smoke, but like there have been some thoughts where, hey, let Texas A&M win, let Alabama win. We will gladly be 11-1, potentially a top 4 seed, and not have to play in the SEC championship game. I don't think that's how Kirby thinks, though, because this Kirby, he's a dog, man. He loves the SEC, and if you tell him he has a chance to win the SEC, I think he's going to take it every time, 10 out of 10 times. So we do have, guess what? A Georgia and Alabama SEC championship game. Who would have thought? Just like almost every other year. But yeah, going to be excited for that one. What else? Let's see. Texas A&M, man. This was a game I was wrong about, unfortunately. I was wrong. I know a Texas fan who definitely let me hear about this. He let me hear about this and about how I don't know what I'm talking about, apparently, for college football. But it's all good because it's deserved. It's deserved because I did pick Texas A&M to win. I picked them to cover the spread. Primarily why I did pick them was, again, I just thought they were the better team, which is kind of counterintuitive because I just said that being the better team doesn't matter in rivalry games, but I picked Texas A&M because I thought they were the better team. But I did because Texas, they, excuse me, the eye test for Texas has not been great. It has not been great. They're what coming into this game? They were 8-3. They beat Oklahoma, beat Vanderbilt, but they just have not looked like a great team, man. Struggled with Kentucky on the road. Struggled with Auburn. Or was it Auburn? Struggled with Kentucky. Struggled with... Was it Auburn? Am I tripping? They had like back-to-back games that went to overtime. I'm pretty sure it was Auburn. Let me fact check this. Texas. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Auburn, yeah. No, I'm tripping. Mississippi State, that's who it was. Yeah, I knew they went back-to-back overtime games, just didn't know who. But yeah, they struggled with Kentucky on the road, struggled with Mississippi State on the road. You know, they got handled by Georgia, just absolutely handled by Georgia. I mean, they got 37 points put on them by Arkansas. So like, I was not confident in Texas. I was not confident, and I know Texas A&M slightly overrated. Their schedule has not been strong. They've played basically all the bottom teams in the SEC. I know that, but I just thought they were a much better team. Their offense is much better. They're much better coached this year, I think. I'm not gonna say the defense is that much better, but again, I just thought that Texas A&M, would get it done. And again, in that first half, I did think Texas A&M was in a great position to win. They went up, a 10-3 lead going into the halftime, but from there, man, the second half, Texas just came out with a completely different switch. They were able to run the ball effectively. This is the best I've seen Texas probably run the ball probably all year. Let's see. Yeah, Arch Manning ran for 218 yards on the ground. This is definitely the best game Wisner has had all year. He was just running out of his mind in the second half. Arch Manning using his legs to keep drives going and keep things going. And that's kind of what really opened up the passing game for Arch Manning, because in the second half he started hitting things, he started getting open looks, and I think that's all contributed to the run game. And I think that was the complete difference in this game. And yeah, Texas, they get a big time win in this rivalry. Second win in a row after this rivalry got renewed. Obviously, they hadn't played since, 2012, 2013, because they switched conferences, or Texas A&M went to the Big 12, or the SEC. But yeah, Texas wins 2 in a row. Curious to see what the College Football Playoff Committee is going to do about Texas, man. I am curious to see, because Vandy also won today. I know Texas beat Vandy, but Vandy's 10-2, and they just beat Tennessee. They're looking good right now. And it's a question if Vandy makes it. Like, it's a question if Vandy's going to make the college football playoff, and they're 10-2. I know Texas has the resume. They've beaten Oklahoma. They just beat Texas A&M. They beat Vanderbilt. I know that, and they have, the committee's clearly valuing good losses this year, and they have probably the best loss in the country, losing to Ohio State by 7. But they do have that Florida loss, man, losing to a 4-win team, getting handled, losing by double digits to a 4-win team, and then getting absolutely shellacked by Georgia. It's gonna be interesting, man. We're gonna know a lot about where the committee thinks these teams are on Tuesday. It's not the final playoff ranking, but not a lot's going to change between the ranking that comes out on Tuesday versus the ranking that comes out after the conference championship, because pretty much with the conference championship, it's been on the record with the committee that can pretty much only help your resume. It can't really hurt it. Yeah, if you got beat by like 50-0 in the conference championship game, yeah, that would probably hurt your case, but it's only a data point that can really benefit you. So, going to be very, very curious to see where the committee has teams like Texas, Miami, not Notre Dame, but Texas, Miami, Vanderbilt. Some of those teams who feel like they're on the fringe bubble, Utah. Because again, I've been saying there's going to be a lot of 10-2 teams, and there is. There's a 9-3 team in the mix. There's a bunch of 10-2 teams. So I'm going to be very, very curious to see what the committee does with that. Oregon, Washington, that was another game we were right about that we hit on. Kind of a slow start for Oregon, man. That was a slow start for Oregon. Offensively, really for both teams. Washington really couldn't do anything to start offensively. Oregon had kind of a slow start, but they did start to pick it up. They went into the half, 14-6 or 13-6, 13-7. I wasn't too concerned about this game for Oregon. Oregon's another one of those teams who is starting to peak at the right time. They've been playing some of their best ball over the last couple games. The way they played against, USC, the way they played against Minnesota, Iowa. Like, I just didn't think that Washington, I know they've had their numbers in the past, but this isn't the Kalen DeBoer Washington team. Washington's a good team, but again, Oregon, they're peaking at the right time. They're starting to play well. Their defense is playing well. The offense is humming. They're starting to get healthy. So I just truly didn't think this was a spot where, I would see Oregon struggle too much. And once they got things going in the second half, they were able to kind of coast to this one and get the dub. Let's see. Alabama, Auburn, the Iron Bowl. This was one I was a little nervous about. I felt confident in taking Alabama and the spread, but I was a little nervous, man. I was a little nervous. What is it? Alabama hasn't covered at Auburn since 2018, 2019 or some crazy thing like that. And they were close, man. They were well on their way to not being able to cover, man. Not being able to cover. Something about Auburn, something about that Iron Bowl at Auburn just gives Alabama fits. And guts to Kalen DeBoer, man. Guts to Kalen DeBoer. It was a 2020 game. They drove down the field, went for it on third down, didn't get it. Fourth down. Kalen DeBoer had the option to kick a field goal and to go up 3 and to trust his defense, or to go for it, And again, I had Alabama -5.5. Yeah, -5.5. But when I bet it at 3.5, like on a parlay, and I wanted Kalen DeBoer to go for it, and he did. We've seen Kalen DeBoer do that a lot this year, a lot, where he has a chance to in the game or late in the game, he'll go for it. He'll go for it against Vanderbilt. Into the game, he could have easily kicked a field goal. They were already up by 8 or 9 at that point, or however much they were, by 7, 8, 9. He could have took a knee or just kicked the field goal and ran the clock out. There was 30 seconds left. What did he do? He ran a play, got a touchdown. Against Mizzou, there was a moment in that game where it was the fourth quarter. They could have just taken the field goal. What did he do? They went for it on fourth down, got the touchdown. Same thing here. Could have taken the field goal. Could have got up 23-20. Played defense, but he said no. We need I'm not letting none of this Auburn magic, Auburn at night magic derail our team. I'm going to take the points. They went for it. Ty Simpson with a great pass. And they got the stop on Auburn's go. Auburn fumbled the ball, and Alabama was able to win this game. This is setting up something interesting because now we have Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship game, and this is a situation where if Alabama loses, are they still going to make the playoffs? My answer is yes, because I just don't see a way that they're going to leave the SEC runner-up out of the college football playoff. Like, that just doesn't seem like something that they're going to do. 9-3. I think that's the only way we're going to see a 9-3 team is if Alabama loses the SEC championship game, because the SEC would absolutely riot if Alabama didn't make it because they lost the SEC championship game, especially after last year. SMU still made it in pretty much the same exact situation, the same exact position. So, going to be curious, man. This is going to be an interesting week. And let's see what other games we kind of had going on around the country. Let's see. Virginia, they beat Virginia Tech to go to the ACC championship game. Duke blasted. They handled who they played. Who Duke play? I don't even remember who they played. But Duke took care of business to set up an ACC championship game where if Duke wins at 7-5, which I still it makes my head hurt thinking about it. I still do not understand how Duke is in the ACC championship game. If somebody knows, drop a comment, give me the rundown, explain to me how Duke is, because Duke is tied with 4 other teams in the ACC at 6-2, but Georgia Tech beat Duke. They played. I remember that game. Georgia Tech beat Duke. Georgia Tech has a better overall record, and they beat Duke, because that's what I thought. Because I knew if Virginia won, they'd be going to the ACC championship game. If SMU won, I knew they would be going. But if SMU lost, I thought it would have been Georgia Tech that would have gone. But no, it was Duke that would have gone if SMU lost, which, again, I still don't understand. Why do they have to make these tiebreakers so complicated? But, yeah, we do have an ACC championship game with Duke. If they win, there is a real possibility that the ACC is going to be left out because JMU, it's North Texas or Tulane. If one of them win, I think they're definitely going to be ranked higher than a 7-5 Duke team. Like, come on now. A 7-5 Duke team that lost to UConn. And Tulane literally beat Duke as well, I think. Yeah, Tulane beat Duke earlier in the year. So, there's no way that they see champ is going to get in. There's just no way. If it is Duke, I should say. Oklahoma surviving LSU. Absolutely surviving. It was a 10-10 game until 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They almost slipped up, man. Oklahoma almost slipped up, but they were able to get the win. SMU, like I just said, they went down to Cal, missed the potentially game-tying field goal that kind of ruined their chances to make the ACC championship game. Utah taking care of business against Kansas. Iowa just absolutely handling Nebraska. Let's see, what else do we got? Indiana just absolutely slacking Purdue. Arizona State, man, that was one that they were up 7-0 at halftime. Arizona State was up 7-0 at halftime against Arizona, and the game ends at 23-7. Tough if you're Arizona State. Looks like you guys had a little momentum going towards the end of the season. Texas Tech just walloping West Virginia. Let's see. Miami, man. Okay. Miami. They're making things interesting, man. They are making things interesting because now Miami is 10-2. Guess who else is 10-2? Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat Pitt 37-15. Miami beat Pitt 38-7. Miami beat NC State 42-7. Notre Dame beat NC State 38-7, I think. Going to be very curious to see what the committee decides this week. Very, very curious. Because we got two 10-2 teams. And now you can't even bring up the eye test with Miami. When Miami lost to SMU, and then that first ranking came out, and Miami was at 18 and Notre Dame was at, 10, 11? You could have used the eye test argument. Miami had lost 2 of their 3 games at that time. Just came off a bad loss. They were not playing well. But what's the argument now? What is the argument for Miami or for Notre Dame over Miami now? Because Miami's been dominating. I was not worried or nervous about this game. I picked Miami. I picked them to cover the spread. I think they're just locked in right now. Mario Cristobal has his team locked in. He knows what's at stake. He knew what was at stake winding down towards the end of the season. And they've been playing some of the best ball. They handled Syracuse. They handled NC State. They handled Virginia Tech. Handled Pitt. So I was not a little nervous about that. But I'm curious to see. Head-to-head has to matter. Both teams are 10-2. Head-to-head has to matter. They play. Is this not why you play the games? Is this not why? So at the end of the season, when resumes are close, you can make a decision based off what actually happened on the field. It sounds too easy. It sounds too simple. But no, it's college football, so everything has to be overly complicated for no reason at all. For no reason. Shout out to my Louisville Cardinals. Absolutely handling Kentucky. Embarrassing Kentucky. 41-0. I'm not going to lie. As a Louisville fan, I was coming into this game a little defeated. I'm not going to lie. We've lost 3 in a row. So many of our key players hurt. No Chris Bell, no Isaac Brown, no Kewan Brown, no Duke Watson. Miller Moss questionable with the foot injury. Everything was against us. I'm not going to lie. I was convinced that Kentucky was going to beat us. I had convinced myself of it. But we come in and just absolutely handle Kentucky. That was arguably one of the best defensive performances of the year. Miller Moss, where has that been over the last 4 games? Where? Miller Moss, so many Louisville fans talk so much shit about Miller Moss and about get Deuce Adams in there, bench Miller Moss. We saw what happened when Miller Moss got benched. The grass is not always greener. I think if Jeff Braun thought there was a better option than Miller Moss, he would have gone to it. And I think that game proves it. Miller Moss played one of the best games of his season. Wasn't doing too much. Was getting the ball out quick. Was getting the ball out on time. That 4th down play was a great pass. The run game, that's what really did it too. You have all 4 of our scholarship running backs all out. A walk-on freshman and a redshirt freshman taking the snaps. And you're telling me that they both run for over 100 yards on this Kentucky defense who, albeit, they've been playing much better down the stretch. They won, 3 out of 4 games. They dominated a Florida team. They got beat by Tennessee, but they scored points on Tennessee and, they beat Auburn for what it is. And they just didn't show up, man. They just did not show up. Braxton Jennings ran for 113. Boykins Jr. ran for 101. And they absolutely handled Kentucky, man. And I love to see it. Louisville runs the state of Kentucky in sports. Louisville obviously beat Kentucky in basketball a couple weeks ago. And now we now complete the sweep in football. So cry home, you little kitty cats. Clemson taking down South Carolina. Let's see. Is there anything else before we kind of get into the coaching talk? That's pretty much it. Florida handling Florida State. I still don't know why they're bringing back Mike Norvell. I guess they just really don't want to pay that buyout. USC kind of struggling at first with UCLA. That game was close at halftime, but USC turned it on, and they were able to win. Illinois Northwestern, there was literally not a single fan, I don't think, in that stand. Not a single fan. At one point, I was kind of loosely watching that game, and they panned to the crowd. I didn't see a single person in the crowd. And why? I mean, why would there? It was literally a blizzard. And yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, that's really all. There's nothing really major that I want to talk about with any of the other games that kind of happened. So yeah, let's get to some real news. That's crazy. As I was literally like pulling up my phone to like look at all just the coaching news and coaching changes, the very first thing that just came up was Mark Stoops. Kentucky has parted ways with Mark Stoops. This is not even where I wanted to begin, but I literally just got on my phone just to check some stuff, and this is the very first thing I saw. This was a little. I think so. KSR went on Andy and Ari on 3 a few weeks ago, probably like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, probably almost at this point. And he said something interesting. He said that he basically called it exactly. He said this is what's going to happen. He said Kentucky's going to win a game or two that they should not win, a game or two that they have no business winning. And what was those games? They beat Florida and they beat Auburn. 2 games that I thought Kentucky was not going to win. And then KSR Radio, or Matt Jones from KSR Radio, he said, that's fine. That can happen. Whatever. Mark Stoops is always good for at least 1 or 2 wins that he shouldn't win a year, last year, Ole Miss, whatever. Louisville the year before. But what was interesting was he said, if Kentucky loses and they lose bad to Vanderbilt in Louisville, it does not matter. He is gone. He is gone. And what happened? He beat a team he was not supposed to beat, and he got shellacked by Louisville and Vanderbilt. Louisville 41-0. Vanderbilt, they dropped over 50 on them, like 50 to 14 or something like that, 54 to 14. And I guess it was true because Kentucky has parted ways with Mark Stoops. And that hurts if you're a Kentucky fan, because Kentucky fans, I know it. I know they wanted John Summerall. And this is why you cannot wait. This is why you cannot wait. I know Kentucky fans wanted John Summerall, and John Summerall finalized the deal today with Florida to be Florida's next coach. John Summerall is a Kentucky alum. Obviously, the Florida job's better than Kentucky, but having that home advantage where he went there, I think played there, that could have given you an advantage, but no, you wanted to wait. You wanted to wait for no reason when you knew what you were going to do was coming. This was coming. It was inevitable. Whether it was today or you wanted to bring it back because you didn't want to pay the buyout, it was going to come at some point. But you waited, and now all the top options are pretty much gone at this point, and you're going to have to that's going to be tough, man. That's going to be tough. Because a lot of the options are gone, man. A lot of the options are gone. Let's talk about Lane Kiffin, man. Let's talk about Lane Kiffin. I know it's probably what a lot of people want to hear about. Lane Kiffin, he has decided to take the LSU job effective immediately. He will not be finishing the season at Ole Miss, which sucks if you're an Ole Miss fan, because this was the greatest season in Ole Miss history. You guys finally made the playoffs, went 11-1. Finally felt like you guys had a real chance to compete for a national title, and your coach just disappears. To be fair, Lane Kiffin wanted to finish out the year coaching. He wanted to, but the athletic director did not want to. They promoted the defensive coordinator, Pete Goldman, to, what is it? Pete Golding. They promoted him to coach. So they're going to finish out the year with him. Going to be curious to see if he's an option to coach forward. They named him as the permanent head coach. Okay, so they hired him as the permanent head coach. So he is the head coach moving forward. It's going to be very interesting, man, because obviously at the end of the season, all the Ole Miss players are gone. They're most likely all going to They're most likely all going to LSU. Chambliss, I think he was part of that suit, that Diego Pavia suit, to try and get an extra year. I don't know what his situation is going to be, but if he stays, he's gone. He's gone to LSU. The offensive staff's all gone to LSU. You know a bunch of the players are going to LSU. You know it. You know it. So, I'm going to be curious to see, man. Is this a situation where some of these players leave before the season's over, depending on how late of a run they make? Because Ole Miss, like I said earlier, they're still going to be in the playoffs. It would be absolutely wild to drop a team out because of the coaching situation. Like, they still have talent. They have an in-house coach who knows the system. He knows the procedures. He knows everything can stay the same. He knows the day-to-day kind of protocols for the team. So I'm curious to see, man. I am curious to see how Ole Miss does. And this just, I don't even want to get into the conversation of the college football calendar being broken, because we know it's broken. We know it is. If I was old Lane Kiffin, I'm not, so my opinion literally is irrelevant. But, I have this platform to kind of just share my opinions. So if I was Lane Kiffin, I probably would have I get why he left. The ceiling for LSU is higher. At the top end, you can get much further at the top end at LSU than at Ole Miss historically. But in this new era, that might not be the case anymore, because Ole Miss is literally in the college football playoffs and just went 11-1 at Ole Miss. LSU, say what you want about Brian Kelly, he was still a good coach. He got LSU the SEC championship game his first year, but that team couldn't make it. So it's like one of those things where, why would you leave something that you already have when that's what you're trying to achieve? The point of coaching, the point of all this is to compete for national championships. You have a team that's in the playoffs that has a chance to compete for the national championship right now. It's just kind of wild to me to leave that situation where you could literally go win the national championship right now this year for a team who's not there and doesn't really feel close to being there. But, like I said, LSU might be a dream job to him. It is a top 3, job in the country, so that might have been hard for him to pass down. But, yeah, Lane Kiffin to LSU. Let's see. John Summerall, like I mentioned earlier, he is going to Florida. A great hire from Florida. Again, if you're a Kentucky fan, that was your guy. But you played around. You played with fire. And you got burned. I did hear that Florida is going to let John Summerall finish this year out with Tulane. Because, again, Tulane is in the middle of a playoff hunt. I mean, they're in the AAC championship. If they win, they are most likely going to be the highest ranked Group of 5 team, even over JMU. So I do think Tulane has a real chance of getting in. And it's a little different because, again, SEC, LSU, Ole Miss, they are in the same conference. They compete against each other. They compete against the same players. When it comes to recruiting and the transfer portals, they are recruiting the same type of players. So I get why the AD did not want Lane Kiffin to coach. And Florida, they said, again, John Summerall can finish out his season with Tulane. It's different. Tulane and Florida, they are not competing for the same caliber of players. So him really staying on Tulane does not really matter. It really doesn't do anything because, again, they're not really competing for the same caliber of players at the end of the day. What else? Alex Golish, USF's coach. This was another name that was getting thrown out. He has gotten the job at Auburn. I like this hire for Auburn. I think Alex Golish is a great coach. What he's been doing at USF over the last few years has been incredible. The offense for USF has just been on fire this year. So I think this is going to be a great situation for Auburn. Let's see. Memphis's coach, Ryan Silverfield, he got hired at Arkansas. Again, Memphis, third team who's been, perennial top teams in the American Group of 5. So I think that's a great hire for them. Let's see. Coastal Carolina did fire their coach Tim Beck. It's weird because Coastal Carolina a few years ago, they were like one of like those contending teams in the group of five. Man, they were always a perennial ranked team, and felt like once we moved to this 12-team playoff era where the group of five gets an automatic bid, that they could kind of compete year in and year out for that group of five spot. Things have been kind of going downhill for Coastal Carolina over the last couple of years. Michigan State did let go of Jonathan Smith. That did feel like one that may have been coming. Jonathan Smith just did not have the year that everybody was expecting from him this year. Let's see what else. Michigan State hired Pat Fitzgerald. So they hired Pat Fitzgerald, and I like that, man. Pat Fitzgerald, he was at Northwestern for obviously a while, and he kind of turned Northwestern into not like a great team, but like they were a perennial. Northwestern had been a team historically who hasn't won a whole lot. I think Northwestern passed Indiana for the most losses in college football history. And he kind of steadied the ship at Northwestern. They were winning 5, 6, 7 games a year under his helm. And obviously, there's a bunch of extra stuff for why he got let go. But this was a name that I heard a lot in a lot of these coach searches. That keep your eye out for Pat Fitzgerald. He's a name to look out for. So Michigan State, they got a good coach as well. Let's see. Is there any other big coaching news? I don't think so. But yeah, this is going to be a time where things start heating up in the world of coaching over the next, 24, 48, 72 hours. There's probably going to be a lot of coaches being hired. This was a very, very big pool because there's a lot of teams that fire their coach, through the season. So this was a very, very big. We knew this was going to be a big year for coaches getting hired. Let's see. There were a lot of coaches that got extended too, or that are returning. Like Dave Aranda at Baylor, he's coming back. A lot of coaches who their names were getting thrown around. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, he signed an extension with Vanderbilt. What's his name? Mizzou's coach, Eli Drinkwitz, he's staying at Mizzou. And again, that's what I thought we were going to get from Lane Kiffin. Because Vanderbilt is in a position to compete for the SEC, for playoffs right now. So why would Clark Lee leave that to go to a program who isn't in that position? Eli Drinkwitz, he's not going to win 10 games this year, but he won 10 games the last 2 years. If Bo Prabila doesn't get hurt, he could have had another 10-win season most likely. Why would he leave what he has here for a team who's not there? This is not like the old system where teams can't compete. Everybody has money now. All these SEC schools have money now. All these NIL deals, these boosters, these donations, all these teams have money. You can win anywhere now. Curt Cignetti is literally winning at Indiana. You can win anywhere. So, leaving a good situation for a team who just can't figure it out and can't get it together right now, I think is wild. And I think that's why you are starting to see a lot of coaches stay as well. Because the grass isn't always greener in coaching. The grass is not always greener in coaching. But yeah, I think that's all we got, man. I was trying to keep this one under an hour as best as I could. We're right at the 55-minute mark. But yeah, we are going to. It's most likely going to be a pretty busy week with just news and stuff. So if more news comes out on some coaches or just anything crazy that happens this week, we will hop on the mic and discuss it. We got the second to last college football playoff rankings coming out on Tuesday. So we are going to have a great idea of where things are at and what the committee thinks. So drop a like, drop a subscribe, drop a comment. If you want to stay up to all things college football, we will be here discussing it. As always, I appreciate it if you have made it this far, and have a good one.